And through doing that, he would be able to, if you think about it, God being the body or Adam being the body of God, and Eve being the body of God, God is actually loving himself. As we, as objects of God, should be able to give love to each other, even though we don't know who we are, or who anybody is, on the same foundation that they too are God, and we can love ourselves through God. I mean, this is all God's love being shared. And when it's shared, there's when love comes back, this is when joy is produced. I mean, until you finally receive love coming back to you, you're empty. You know, you can give and give and give and give and give and give. But something's missing. But when it comes back to you, when you find a wife, a child, a grandchild that returns love to you after you give love, this is so joyful. I mean, I can't even stand up here and look at my granddaughter without laughing because of the joy I feel when they're going, gee. I mean, that kind of love through generations. God really wanted to be a grandparent so that his children could feel the love of creating. This is where I was talking to Ozzy last week. The children can feel the love of creating and returning that love from a parent-child relationship. And then he would be the grandfather going, told you. You know, you're going to like this. And, yeah, it's a wonderful thing, but, okay. As wonderful as it is, it's not the case in the world today. We look at each other and we see each other, and if we don't know them, we shy away. You know, I don't know you. I don't know you. You're not like me. Well, not all the flowers of the world look the same. They're not the same flowers. Yet there's lots of beautiful, beautiful flowers. If we all understand that we are all creations of God and can see the beauty of the life of the creation within us, we have an object that we can love and have that love come back to us. But unfortunately, separated from God through the fall, we're alone. We have no one to comfort, no one to bring the truth. Who has ever felt alone in this world? Anybody? Tell me what, I mean, really. Has anybody ever felt alone? I should see every hand up here. Because I know there's times when everybody, oh, nope, loves me. You know? I mean, it's not that they don't love you, it's just that you don't feel it. Anybody know what autistic children are? They're children that have their own reality and they can't communicate anything to anyone else very easily. And it's so sad, but when God looks at us, what he sees is basically autistic children, or children that are even dead in spirit to his heart. How painful. I knew it was going to be tough. How painful is it to see how that kind of heart, that kind of sorrow from Johnson. Actually, I purposely brought coffee so I could settle down. Excuse me. in book 1. In book 1, God, chapter 4, section 1. God's sorrow and the providence of restoration. Why is the God of sorrow? God's ideal of creation should have brought him boundless joy and delight in the garden of love, based on his love and truth. But God's love was frustrated as a result of the fall of Adam and Eve. And he had to toil in history for thousands of years. You need to experience the sorrowful heart of God, who suffers to this day, even as he fights Satan in order to fulfill the ideal of creation, which Adam and Eve did not fulfill due to the fall. You must experience God's intense grief at the loss of Adam and Eve when they betrayed him and fell. Unless you first understand what God's love is, and what God's love is all about, and experience how much God loves human beings, you can never fathom the depth of his sorrow upon losing them. Could somebody get me a tissue, please? They're in the kitchen table. You can come back through the hallway here. Thank you. God was supposed to have emerged as a glorious being. Our joy should have been God's joy, and God's joy should have been our joy. This would have been the ideal of creation, but due to the fall, that ideal was lost, and God ended up miserable. God, who appeared to us not as the God of glory, is incomparably more wretched and deserving of pity than anyone in all of history. God originally should have been the God of glory, but since the day of the fall, his situation has been the opposite. God should have been able to entrust everything to human beings, and we should have been able to entrust everything to God. But this sort of relationship with God has been becoming impossible. How deeply painful is it for parents if their children see them in deep misery? Accordingly, God does not want to reveal his painful heart and situation to his children. Though he is toiling endlessly, he does not want to show his sad face. So, how can we change this? How can we bring joy to God instead of misery? What's the way back? Well, we do have a weapon of love. Maybe even a couple of them. First, one of the tools that we have, one of these weapons, is the divine principle. How many people here know the divine principle, or what I'm talking about when I say divine principle? Everybody's hands should go up. If not, I would like to invite you next Saturday to our Discovering the Divine Principle lecture.
Good setup.
You betcha, greatly you did. Discovering the Divine Principle. It's a slide presentation that can open up and explain more deeply this whole process that I've been talking about. And anyway, the Divine Principle is very, very clear of how to restore ourselves, how to change our original nature. How to, not change it, but restore our original nature. Instead of having a fallen nature where we're alone and we've left our position and we only think of ourselves and trying to get others to think, have their share our selfishness with others. We keep our position, we realize we're loved by God. We're God's child, and we go through that kind of revelation that we are God's child. And from that, we maintain our position and spread goodness and love to this world. So anyway, that's a little bit of the principle. And we also have true parents. Do you know that concept of true parents that we were talking about, and for the Adam and Eve being true parents? God's never given up. In Isaiah, God says, I purposed and I will. That means I'm never going to give it up, no matter what. And ever since the fall of Adam and Eve, he's been trying to restore us back to the position where he could restore that position of true parents, that position of the true Adam and true Eve. He's went through the whole Old Testament time, and you can see very clearly through the divine principle the progress that he made. He taught us laws. He taught us things like, there is no other God beside God. I am the Lord your God. Who am I? I'm here. Don't kill. Love your mom and dad. Don't lie. Don't. All these things. Keep holy. It's such, these 10 commandments. And they're not suggestions. They are commandments. So, that being the case, all this to the time of Jesus. And Jesus was the true Son of God. Do you imagine how hopeful God was at that point? And unfortunately, instead of having the people accept him and say, I am the way and the truth and life, follow me, they didn't follow. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. They didn't listen to him. Instead, he had to say, I forgive them because they don't know what they're doing on the cross when he was killed. He wasn't able to establish that family foundation as a husband and a wife. And God's heart was crushed. Once again, he couldn't even watch. Had to leave Jesus. I can't watch this to repeat. I just can't watch it again. And I think Jesus had his biggest victory at that point when he said, not as I will, but as thou wilt. Father, forgive them. Father, forgive them. Even when God left him, he still asked God to forgive these people. Wow, he took God's viewpoint. So, anyway, if we look at history from the time of Jesus, the same things happened in history as happened from the time of Abraham. It repeats, and it comes to the point where God gives his word once again, and the development of the restoration back to the original idea has reached to the point where, again, God has sent someone to this world to represent him. And it's been victorious. He was able to create the true parents in our lifetime. And through this, by being able to share that concept of true parents with other people, this is where God sees us giving spiritual life to other people. And this is such a source of joy for God. When we can witness, natural witnessing, direct witnessing, whatever we can do, however we can witness, wherever we go, take God with God. Please go with me. I'm going to go to the store. Let me find someone. Talk to somebody in the line. I'm going to go to school. Let me just do my best so that people can ask me, what are you doing so good? Let me be an example of trying to live for the sake of others, which is the ideal image of God. What does God live for? He lives for the whole. He lives for the others. So, when we have this opportunity to witness, it's such an incredible chance to bring God joy. And I'm inspired by my wife. We had a witnessing opportunity in Hawaii. And I can't really say she sacrificed because she's going to Hawaii and she's going to be able to have a great time. Now I'm here home alone or home without my wife, and no, I'm the one that's actually sacrificing. but I'm happy to do it because new life can come to this world through witnessing. And being able to understand the principle well enough, being able to understand and read true parents' words so that they come into our lives, and they can be within our hearts. We find such joy in that. If you're not familiar with this joy, I pray that you can be. Thank you. Let's pray. Dearest Heavenly